Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sacktown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are going to be discussing two films that we have seen online, or streaming, I guess you will. The first going to be One BR, which can be found on, was it Amazon or Netflix?
That's where I got it on Amazon. It's not free,
Amazon,
though.
yeah.
It's not free. You have to pay.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And the second being The Five Bloods, which is directed by Spike Lee, which is on Netflix.
Yes.
Perfect. But before we get into that, how's everything going with you?
Good. Still working from home. I know you're back in the office, but there's hardly anybody there. I'm working from home, and we're gonna be gradually phasing back into the office, but it's going to be a while before that plan comes into focus, probably, and it'll be the same thing. It'll be, just a few people there at one time. We just don't know what that's going to look like yet. So, but yeah, just working from home, watching a lot of movies, listening to a lot of music, just hanging out, pretty much. How about you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like I've been back in the office for a couple of weeks now, but it's like I said, it's so scattered there right now that it's, it's not like working from home, obviously, because you got to get up, get dressed, and drive in, but it still doesn't feel like it's a full office environment. There's like a few people that pop in here and there, but you're mostly kind of just in my own little cubicle world doing my own thing. So it's not really as in some ways it's better because there's not everybody there, not just for safety reasons, but also just less distractions when there's just a lot of people in the office. So it's okay. I don't mind it too much. So it's fine. I'm okay with it. Other than that, nothing real major to report. So just the same old, man. Just, like I said, back to work. Things are starting to kind of sort of get back to some sense of normalcy. I still haven't been to any restaurants to eat or anything like that. My fiance went out to dinner last night for the first time, I think, in like a couple of months with one of her coworkers. But I still am kind of waiting a little bit, especially now that I'm seeing like there's like a lot of cases spiking in other places from that. So
yeah.
But
what was it like? Was it weird? I mean, were I guess the servers wearing a mask probably, and
yeah, so I think the servers wear a mask. They don't require the patrons to wear a mask because you have to eat. But it's still kind of weird because you come in with a mask on and then I guess you take your mask off to eat. So I'm like, well, you're still. I mean, I don't know. So it's weird.
I'm okay with takeout and delivery for the time being.
Yeah, this whole thing is like I said, there's a lot of things that don't quite make sense. Like you can't have gatherings at your house more than like 10 people, but supposedly churches are opening and you can have 100 people there. So I don't know. Something like that. Yeah. I read that it's like there's no more gatherings at churches, no more than 100 is what I read. So I'm not really for sure what's going on. And then, cool. Well, moving on. Let's get into those movies, man. Let's get into it. So the first one that we're going to be doing is One BR. And I will let you take that one if you don't mind. Kind of, what's that about and your thoughts on it.
Yeah. It's a pretty easy one to summarize because since we stay out of spoilers on this show, it's pretty simple to summarize if you're staying out of spoilers. If you're not staying out of spoilers, we could talk for a long time on this one. But since we're staying out of spoilers, it's about a young lady who moves into a apartment complex in Los Angeles, and she's your typical going to LA to start her life over and not become a success. Usually it's somebody who wants to be an actress or something like that. And I don't think that was the case here, but she is definitely trying to start her life over. Moves into an apartment complex where everybody's super friendly and everything seems great, but as you can tell by the poster,
she's crying.
It doesn't turn out great. So that's really all there is to say about this one, without getting into spoilers again. And she moves in, and since you probably know either from seeing that poster or knowing going in that it's a horror movie-ish, horror thriller, that things are not going to go well. And the question's not if things are going to go wrong, but when and how. So I will say that this movie did manage to surprise me on both of those points, the when and the how, because basically everything goes haywire a lot quicker than I expected and a lot less gradually. Because usually it's these movies like, oh, there's a creek here, there's a mysterious thing there. And it was that at first, but then it's like, bam, everything changes without spoiling again, but everything goes topsy-turvy fairly early on. So that did surprise me, and what surprised me of what's going on too. So yeah, it's good in that sense. But overall, it's one of these movies that, and there's a lot of them these days. These new streaming releases, unfortunately, that it's good enough to watch, but it's nothing. This is nothing I'm ever going to want to watch again, really. And I watched it about a week ago, and I don't remember a whole lot of the details. But I mean, it is a decent thriller. The acting is pretty good. I wouldn't say the acting was great. The writing is pretty good. It did have some suspense in it, and I really like the ending for some reason. The ending kind of opens things up in an interesting way. But yeah, it's a well done movie. But it's one that I'm not gonna need to watch again. It was just kind of disposable. That makes it sound worse than it is, but it's a movie that, like, again, I enjoyed 90 minutes eating popcorn and watching it, and then it's like out of sight, out of mind, basically. So that was my thought. It was pretty good. What about you?
Yeah. So yeah, like, once again, it's a little hard to describe without kind of giving the full spoilers, I guess. The only thing that I will say, and this isn't a spoiler, is, basically, like you said, she moves into this apartment complex with this community, of people that, she thinks she's going to, fit in with. Everybody seems very friendly and, that kind of stuff. And then it is a little strange because, like, it's like a typical horror movie. Like most horror movies start, there's some weird noises or some weird things going on that, you're like, okay, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But then, like with a lot of the slower burn horror movies, the noises continue, weird things continue to happen until eventually, yeah. This one is like you hear some couple noises for like a day in the in timeline, a day or two in the timeline, and then immediately something happens, and you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that, and then it just kind of goes like crazy, and then you also see how broad crazy it really gets, you know what I mean, very quickly. It is kind of the movies, though, where when it does get crazy, I don't exactly 100% know the full scope of exactly what's going on, you know what I mean, or what's happening. And not to give spoilers, but a lot of stuff is happening to the lead character in this film, who's with the crying, because most of it's happening to her. But it's interesting, it's an interesting perspective, I think, about, I guess, moving on, starting a new life and stuff like that. She's had a lot of things that happened to her in her life. It seems like her mother passes away, and she's kind of distanced from her father, and so when she moves to LA, she really has nobody. And then moving into like this new apartment complex, she feels like it's going to be a good thing for her, and clearly it's not, and it turns very south for her very quickly in that sense. But yeah, overall, I can't say that I loved it or anything like that, but overall, it's a decent thriller, if you will. I'm a comment on maybe on the same page as you, that it wasn't one that I would need to necessarily revisit. Like I said, it does have kind of somewhat of a minor twist at the very end that I think you alluded to, which, I didn't see that part coming or whatever, you know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of interesting a little bit. I think that, I don't know if they did a sequel. Would I watch that? I don't know, because that's the kind of movie that, like, well, man, they could expound a little bit more on that twist that happens at the end. So I don't know. But I don't know. Overall, I can't say that I had necessarily a bad time. I know that we were thinking that this might have been one that potentially could have been with like the Twilight Zone, kind of like Vivarium and the Platform. I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than Vivarium, maybe. But maybe not as good as the Platform, I guess. So.
Oh yeah, no, not anywhere close for me. I did prefer it to Vivarium. You know. I wasn't bored. You know, one thing.
Yeah, Vivarium, I was definitely bored in parts, and there was definitely parts where I was like, can we get to wherever you're trying to get to? Or you don't have that issue with this film. There's a part where you're kind of wondering what this is all about. You're trying to figure things out, but you figure it out pretty quickly in this. So what I mean, and then it's just like, well, how is this situation going to evolve, kind of thing. So
yeah, calling a movie a slow burn is, you know, it has good and bad connotations for some people. I love a good slow burn. This is not a slow burn.
No, definitely not.
It definitely, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, if
I'm saying that as a bad thing, because slow burns kind of bore me a little bit. So
yeah. Well, I like a good slow burn.
I fall in the camp of let's get to it. Let's make something happen.
Well,
this definitely makes something happen. So it's not necessarily that it makes it great, but
if you agree with this guy and you can't handle a little, you know, having a little patience for the buildup, then this is your movie, because it doesn't make you wait.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
I mean, I like those too. I got
things to do. Get to the point. You know, I don't need an hour of weird happenings, weird noises. Like, okay, yeah, we get it. There's weird noises. Let's get to it. You know what I mean? That's me.
Okay.
Maybe you like that, where it's like 2 hours of nothing, and then like the last 15 minutes, the villain reveals himself. You know what I mean? No, I need a little bit more. You know, you can start off with little noises here and there, the creaking of the stairs, the weirdness, or whatever case may be. But then, you know, I'm ready to see something. This one happens way quicker than most horror films, though, I feel like. And I feel like most horror films, it goes on a little bit longer, not even considered it to be a slow burn, but it goes on a little bit longer. This one it's pretty drastic. So, yeah.
Here, it's okay if you don't have an attention span. That's fine.
I have a great attention span. Mm-hmm. I just don't have an attention span for boring. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that is one BR, if you will.
One bedroom, I don't know.
One bedroom the title's one BR, so I guess it's one bedroom. So one bedroom apartment. So no, whatever. I guess I will take the next one.
Sure.
Which is The Five Bloods, which was just recently released.
Last Friday.
Yeah, on Netflix. It's a Spike Lee film. You kind of know what you're getting with the Spike Lee film. Usually they're going to be a lot of social commentary and that sort of stuff. This one, describing it. So basically, The Five Bloods are basically about technically five Vietnam vets that served in the Vietnam War. They go back to Vietnam, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but they go back to Vietnam. One of the Five Bloods actually died during the war. So in theory, you think they're going back to, like, I guess, and his body was still there to recover his body, but they also have an ulterior motive of there's actually some basically some gold that they're kind of looking for there in Vietnam. So they're going on the same trails that they went into when they were back in Vietnam to see if they can locate that gold that they buried, 40 years ago, I guess, apparently 40, 50 years ago. That's kind of where it goes from there. I mean, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of flashbacks, a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's a Spike Lee film. It's a little longer. It's a little messy in parts, in my opinion. It's a little out there. It's not my favorite Spike Lee film, but it had enough there that I could say it was interesting. But there's a lot of things that you could definitely pick some holes about some of the plots and some of that stuff. There's one of the things that I noticed, and someone else had commented on this, is also, and I thought that when I was watching it, is that on the flashback scenes, they didn't try to de-age the actors, which, I've been a big critic of when they do try to de-age the actors in similar films that we've watched in the past, with what's the most recent one, the Scorsese one, the Irishman.
Oh, yeah.
They de-age the actors, and I thought that was a little funky. This one was almost just as weird for me because they didn't try to de-age the actors. So they're like doing flashback scenes of them like back in Vietnam, 50 years ago, and they still have like gray beards and like gray hair. And I'm like, but then the other actor that perished in the war is still young. So it's a little strange watching it like that. I don't know. I mean, overall, I didn't think it was a bad film, but it was another one that I personally probably won't revisit. And in fairness, I know in this case, I actually saw your review on it. I know you enjoyed it a lot more than I did. But it's really messy. It's a little over the place. There's a lot of different storylines that are thrown in that, I don't know if they're necessary or not. You can make arguments about that. And it's long. And for me, it felt a little long. It felt a little long for me. It's not the longest movie I've ever seen. It's like 2.5 hours long. I don't know if it necessarily needed that length necessarily. I felt like a lot of the stuff that they threw in there and they added in there, especially towards the end, I guess it, to bring some action into it, but it didn't feel like it was going to be an action movie, but it kind of turned into an action movie. So that was a little unexpected. So I didn't know quite how to feel about that. Like I said, overall, I didn't think it was a bad film, but I don't know. It's probably not one that I'm going to revisit. Definitely not as good as Black Klansman or anything like that, in my opinion. So that's my take. All right.
Yeah. Well, in this case, yeah, you already know I loved this movie. I thought it was great. And I apologize. I know usually we don't know what the other person thought, but like with The Vast of Night last time and this one, I felt so strongly about it. I just wanted to get it out there. Tell people to watch it. But yeah, I love this movie. I will admit that it's not perfect. Like Black Klansman was my favorite movie of that year. And this won't be my favorite movie of the year, but I would be surprised if it's not in the top 10, to be honest.
Well, this year it'd probably be pretty ezy because I don't even know what other movies are coming out that are even decent.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
yeah. But I thought it was. I really, really liked it. Like, I'm a big Spike Lee fan. I haven't loved everything he's done, but I've loved just about everything. And one thing, you said like you kind of know what you're going to get with a Spike Lee fan, and that's true. I mean, with the Spike Lee film, and that's true in one sense. But I also love the fact that you also kind of never know what you're going to get with Spike Lee, because he's one of those filmmakers that one of my favorite things about him is that he it doesn't always work, but he always swings for the fences. He always is willing to go out on a limb, try something different, bring in all kinds of things. And sometimes it's going to stick and sometimes it's not. This is one case where it definitely was a little more all over the place. I can see why maybe he had a little, I don't know why it went to Netflix, and I'm sure it probably would have gone to the screens. I'm not sure. But it definitely would not have been like a hit.
I feel like this goes to another film that I felt like was at home on Netflix. I don't see this being a major. Yeah, I don't think this was going to be a major blockbuster film. I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have played as well as Black Klansman. Let me put it that way. I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have played that well. I think it's at home on Netflix. Personally, that's my opinion.
See, I think
it's super messy. It's just a really messy film. You know what I mean? So it's just really. There's a lot of different elements in it. You'll even acknowledge that it's messy. You did in your own review. It's a really messy film, which I don't think that's going to jive with everybody. So I don't think that it's the kind of film that would play that well, personally.
No, but I think we're talking about kind of different things. Like, no, I don't think the box office potential would have been as big as Black Klansman, obviously. But what I mean is when I say it would, I'm talking about like it feels like a real movie. It feels like it would have looked great on like the big screen is what I mean. So I don't mean in the sense that it would have been like a mega blockbuster or anything like that, but that it feels like a movie. Whereas last time we talked about that, like the Lovebirds, not to get too off track, but the Lovebirds felt at home on TV because it felt like it belonged on TV. Where this, I feel like it would have looked great on big screen. That's what I mean. But yeah, I loved it. I thought the first half was pretty much perfect. In the second half, it starts to kind of go off in a few weird directions, and the pacing.
I felt it went off the rails personally.
yeah. I didn't. But again, like messy comes with the territory when it's Spike Lee. All of his movies are messy in some way, just about. And either you mind that or you don't. Like I don't mind it with his films because again, like I admire somebody who's always swinging for the fences, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's whether it works or it doesn't is going to, your mileage is going to vary with that. But for me, I love seeing a movie that is this alive, and messy. I don't mind messy as long as I can feel like the intention there. I can feel the heart there, the soul there. And to me, like, his heart and soul is in every single frame of this movie. And I'll take a little messiness with that. I'd rather take a little messiness than just something that is completely just like generic product, there are better examples of this, but like The Lovebirds is like a blatant, the screenplay is basically connect the dots. It's a product. This is not a product. It feels like art. And that's why I don't mind a little messiness there. So I think, okay. Yeah, well, you're wrong. So, but I think it's great. I think all the acting is fantastic, especially Delroy Lindo. It's so great to see him in a role again, let alone such a meaty role as this. And everybody in this movie is good, though. Yeah, I love it. I mean, again, like, you have to kind of expect some sprawl. A lot of his movies are really long too. Maybe some of them don't need to be as long as they are. But again, like I appreciate like seeing a true artist work, and that's what this feels like. So this one's a little more for the fans than say Black Klansman, which had more of a broad appeal. I get that. But if you're truly a Spike Lee fan and you like seeing him work, this is what a work of art looks like. It's not perfect, but it's something special. So it's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year so far, for sure. So there you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's that.
Yeah.
So, all right. All right. Well, no, that's definitely a little bit of a difference of opinion on that one for sure. But it's okay. You can be wrong, and you're wrong. So that's cool.
Whatever.
All right. Well, in summary, 1BR, your overall rating and your face you would give it.
I gave it a 3 out of 5, which for me is like a C plus B minus. It was competent. It entertained me, but it never really wowed me or anything like that. It's nothing I need to see again. So I would give it this face, which is basically just me, like just a little hint of a smile, but not bored, not overjoyed.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit lower than you. I would probably give it a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, it has some parts that I enjoyed. I did enjoy. When everything started unfolding, there just wasn't enough meat there for me to really say I completely liked the film, I guess, you know what I mean? So I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. And the face I'm going to give it is this one, which is pretty much just a straight face. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. I wasn't bored or anything like that. It just wasn't a whole lot to it that I, loved about it. So my take. And you're moving on to the 5 Bloods, your grade and your overall face.
I gave it, this one I gave 4.5 out of 5. So an A minus, which means it's not perfect, but I love it. So it's just almost perfect, I would say. So that would be this face. Film expression.
Cool. So another ecstatic face for you. Of course.
Only the second one. It's only the second one.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, there was enough there to say that it wasn't terrible or anything like that. It's about a quality 3 for me. I think there was some. The acting wasn't bad. It's definitely a little long, definitely a little messy, but it's one that I might say check out and give your own opinion on it. There's some good stuff there. Don't get me wrong. Overall, it was just a little long and messy for me is all. And the face I'm going to give it is this one, which is a smile but no teeth. So, but that's our summary.
All right.
So, Well, once again, we thank you guys for watching. Please continue to watch and subscribe to the channel. Give us a big like if you like the review. And always hit that bell notification so that you're alerted whenever we're going to be uploading a new movie review or discussion. And we will be back soon with another show. And we thank you guys once again for watching. Have a great day.